So join me on the topsy-turvy role of Naxxramas. It's a really fun raid that I have been obsessed with more than almost anyone else to play the game. The reason I can say that is just the amount of progression groups that I've gone through since 2019 and just have not stopped playing between a couple different inactive periods of not hosting but still being involved in Naxxes. So starting out in 2019 was doing GDKP daily, and I had no expectations of doing Naxx at the start. I felt a lot of pressure to do it because of the organization that we were. We were like one of the progression GDKP groups on the server, as silly as that sounds. It was a mix of performance as well as getting paid, which was really fun. And it was a whole bunch of people that didn't really care about the gold side of things, just enjoyed like the pickup guild environment of it. It's kind of hard to describe if you weren't part of it. There was maybe 15, 20 guilds that were like that in total. And between all those different guilds, they had the same loot system, right? Gold. So that system allowed all these guys to work together, where we could use resources more towards consumables more than anything else. And it ended up being just as much groups almost that were, well, by the end, way more groups that were doing GDKP Naxx compared to guild Naxxes. Um, as far as the guild Naxxes go, the first progression raid to clear Naxx on Whitemane was Risen, and that was the guild that I was part of since day one. I wasn't part of the progression run, but it was an absolute tragedy. They wiped on Saffron, otherwise they would have been like one of the first people to clear Naxx in the game. Um, the wipe on Saffron was something that we'll talk about later. Um, I could go into a lot more stories on the Risen Guild and that kind of stuff, but I want to focus on the Naxx side of me, right? Where I had no expectations of doing Naxx at the start. My GDKP guild had in some ways kind of fallen apart, and I rebuilt it and was going into Naxx with different main tanks. Suddenly I was starting to main tank. That was new to me. In AQ40, I was never main tanking. BWL was doing some main tanking, but um, AQ40 was tough, right? It was something that you couldn't just press the taunt button and things work out. So I wasn't always main tanking in the Naxx raid either, right? Finding other people to help you out is going to be one of my biggest recommendations for you in Naxx, and one of the biggest like takeaways from me having just so many other good people better than me. That's the only reason that Naxx has turned out so well for me. Um, give you a couple more credentials. My Naxxes are the cleanest. If you look over the course of hundreds of raids, on average, my Naxxes are the lowest amount of time, just because they don't go wrong, right? The problem with speedruns is a lot of times you have issues where things don't go right and then you're slowed down a lot, or they just fall apart completely and you don't finish the run. So my goal is to have nice, easy Naxx raids. That's all I really care about. And GDQP Daily at the start, to go back to that 2019 experience, it took us about 4 weeks to clear the Naxx raid. First couple weeks really struggled, wiped on the very first trash pack the first week. We'll talk about that more. Um, but had some struggles, right? Naxx is not something that you're just going to overcome all the time super easily. And getting through those bad wipes and still clearing the raid is what makes Naxx really fun. Because at least on Era and 2019, it's not always free. I think with the amount of buffs that seem to be dropping on Fresh, that's a real benefit, right? Is the buff train's going to continue? That to me is the real question. It's all about prepping as the raid goes at the start of the raid, and then maybe a rebuff as you're going. That was the big thing that allowed daily to compete at the start, is our 2 raid days. Big takeaway at the start of Naxx, if you want to take it seriously, is splitting it up and having just that mental reset. Um, really powerful. But what you're seeing here with Fresh Daily is we chose to never do that. Once we were finally able to clear like Saffron and KT as the final two bosses, then we would, I think 1 week we did it as a GDKP because we just weren't able to get a strong enough raid as a soft reserve to clear it. Because that's kind of the flair that you're seeing that's a little bit different compared to some groups here is this is a GDKP. Sorry, this is not a GDKP on Era. On Era, there's a predominantly GDKP focus at this point just because of the amount of people that need the gear, right? It's hard to find that balance as a non-GDKP of people that want to play the game long term that have the best gear already and people that want to start playing the game that don't have the best gear that want to get the best gear. It's a really tough system to co-regulate, and we're one of the few groups that long term have been able to pull it off. Just because, frankly, gear is not super big focus for us at this point. It's just playing the game. Um, but that's the blessing of a group like this that starts out with nothing, which is what you're seeing. If you're going to notice here, a lot of the same players that we look at now are going to be parts of these raids, and they do not have very good gear. You don't need great gear to clear Naxx. We're not going to clear Naxx this week. This is one of the first ones that we're watching. But this is a great opportunity to just see some of the gear levels, right? We don't have buffs out. When we're doing this content at the start like this and learning stuff, we are not taking our buffs out and going super crazy. We're playing pretty safe overall. So later on, you're going to see that we basically always start Spiderwing, but this is an example of a Naxx Lite. I'm going to do a full guide on Naxx Lite later, but just want to show here at the start, we would start with Patchwerk. I think that taking your buffs out and popping them on Patchwerk if you're semi-confident with your raid is a good way to start. Um, there's just a whole bunch of different strategies and things to think about how you want to do things. We chose to risk it this week and go for Patchwerk. So I think this was our second week. There's missing like one or two logs, so I have the lore slightly wrong on this. I don't know if I have a stone shield on. I feel like I could just get absolutely walloped here from like full to zero. Maybe I do. But anyways, kind of just a tough time. And yeah, what I really want to stress with Naxx is the idea that if you can't do the basics right, you just shouldn't be in Naxx, right? Like there's so much more that you can be doing, and I guess that's kind of like the weird thing about Fresh, how you can only really do these soft reserve raids. So there's going to be bosses that die, and people are just not going to be incentivized to go and kill these other bosses. So I think that's one reason to start out with Patchwerk, where like if you can get through this and kill some of the hard bosses, it really does unlock more, or you're just stuck doing some of the easier stuff. So that was always our take on it. At the start of the raids on this version of the soft reserve, we are just doing the easy stuff, and if the easy stuff doesn't work out, oh well. And that was kind of how the GDKP always was too. I'll give Homeo a lot of credit to early on, just like pushing the basics and unfortunately, oh, Taunt dies this time. So, yeah, I guess we just didn't quite have enough heals on Taunt there, so rip. Once one tank died, the other tanks just kind of fell over and try and get out. Some people hearth and that kind of stuff, and that's kind of the challenge when stuff like this happens is regrouping and going back in feeling as fresh as you can. And that's what we end up doing. So at this point, we just turned it into a Naxx Lite. So essentially, we waste almost the first hour of the raid on A-Bomb Wing where we kill nothing. And that's just the investment into Naxx that just really, really hurts. And fortunately, we turned it around this week as far as still being able to clear the full Spider Wing, part of Plague Wing. You'll see Heigan here where we do pull it off. So let's see how Heigan goes, why it turns so deadly for us. So you see how it takes us kind of a long time to kill these ads. We're pretty slow. We don't have a whole ton of buffs. We try and get a little mana for a second. Really, though, we shouldn't be waiting too long for mana here. The reality is, waiting for these ads is just a bait. Just waste time. So as quick as we can, we want to kill these ads and be ready to go. So we go on in. Lee almost dies. Fortunately, I survive. So we have a couple ads that we're killing. I guess maybe I moved kind of late and we all got slowed. I did not tank this boss in a great spot for this first one, I don't think. Oh no, it was fine. We're still doing good. So the first three people got teleported and it looks like they all tried to run by themselves, so they all three died. So we're still doing it. This boss is really difficult to move as a tank. The way that he like kind of stutter steps is just not fun. So as a tank, you got to really be consistent with your movements and then like kind of jerk a little bit so he just adjusts. So I do weird movement here. I definitely could have done better on this one. So we move to the next one. So this is the key thing to understand here. I think I move, no, we move right. So boom, and then I should go back to 1 here, but I move a little bit to 3. That was the big bait by me. So a lot of melee get a little bit late. And then we all just start ticking down by not being able to dance. So let's talk about this teleport here. If you don't have the damage to kill Heigan, you got to be ready to dance. So quickly you get to 1. It really does help if you have a speed Zanza for this, so then you go to 2 quickly. And I always kind of stutter step. If you see star here, I always kind of stop in between, so it makes sure it registers. There's some people that are just like going maybe a little bit too fast, or they're just not in a great spot. So notice how star hasn't been getting hit at all. Each time I'm stopping and going in the middle. And so 2, now 3, now 4, now back to 3. And some people are like trying to hit and stuff, it's just not worth it. Now 2, now 1. Some people know how to dance and some people don't. It's something that is just going to be challenging. I didn't do a great job explaining this in my Plague video, but what you're seeing here is a good example of how some people know how to do it and some people don't, and you can still kill this boss without everyone being able to do Heigan. So now we're on to 3. So I think we B-res one of the druids, and then a druid B-reses maybe someone else. Yeah, we B-res another druid. But then Cosmic dies from the mana burn. I think we lose a couple people here from the mana burn. So I didn't do a great job where I was tanking this. I was taking it too close to the casters. So this is getting kind of dire here. But I'm going to just save the time here. We do end up killing it. It's a long kill. And we have to do the dance again here. So you get to see a double dance. But we do pull it off. So shout out to the gamers that are part of this group. And that's kind of the crazy thing, right? Like if you look at some of the names here, it's a lot of people that we still recognize, right? I think that's really, really cool. Okay, so again, let's see what happens when the teleport happens. You go back to 1, then 2, then 3. So let's talk about this transition here. You got to make sure you heal the tank as the tank is getting set up. The healers are moving to their spot where they stand right on top of here. Really important that the tank gets healed as the transition happens. This is going to be a really likely time for deaths. After you do the dance, the healers are not healing the tank. That's when you need to be healing the tank. So fortunately, we killed the boss. Not clean at all, but get it done. And yeah, so then we go Death Knight, we kill Razuvious, and GG's. Let's just show some of these steeds and like the level of damage that goes out. These are rough packs. So when you don't have the level of damage to kill these 3 packs quickly, it's really, really rough. You got to kill one super fast, and then you're just trying to heal through this, and it's just a lot of damage. Need to make sure that everyone's focused on their group healing, and I mean, we're just not able to survive. Like, it's really, really rough. So I think it was just the 3 pack, right? I don't think we got pulled into the steeds. We did the steeds first. Yeah, it was just the 3 pack. So just one single pack, and we are struggling. That shows kind of the level of power, right? Like, if you are struggling on these packs, you might struggle for the rest of Naxx. Let's just be real. So let's look at how 2 steeds killed us. They both charged. We were not able to kill Skull quick enough. Both of these ads are alive, and then they just both charge. It's really important to demo shot these. I forgot to mention the importance of debuffs in my Death Knight video. Um, dang, that's a huge miss. Making sure that you Curse of Weakness these, as well as demo shot each time, is really, really important. Dang, not a good video at all. Bunch of more things that we can continue to talk about, which is cool. Um, Again, there's just different levels, right? In some of these raids, what I'm talking about might not be a super big factor, but I would say in every single raid, it's standard to Curse of Weakness these and the axes after these, the 2 packs where it's really, really important. So we're getting absolutely owned by these 2 steeds. We do pull them kind of early, but we just don't have good damage on these. They charge us and they just own us. These stuns are just brutal. So we lose half our raid on this pack. Still got one left alive. Yeah, the level of damage in this raid is low. Fortunately, you don't need much damage for Razuvious. We were blessed to have Hagrid in this raid. He does a really good job on Razuvious. So notice how he's lowering his mana going into it, I believe. He doesn't really actually. So Razuvious is set up. They do kind of optimal positioning here. In the end, we don't do this very often where it's like perfect like this. But notice how like you don't, we actually did 2 ads kind of at the same time. That wasn't good. So we're just riding it out for a long time here. We don't need to have taunts active the whole time when we have buffs in our boons like this. The reality is we don't do a whole ton of threat. If you're noticing the threat meter here, these ads just have giga threat. Looks like they were getting battle shouted, so that is something to consider. I think there's a way to make sure like this has Blessing of Might as well. Having those additional buffs, as many as possible, is important. It does kind of fall apart at the end here. So that Disrupting Shout, it looks like it took out a couple people. We just kept losing more and more people to Disrupting Shout, and then Taunt dies right at the end. One of our off tanks on the ads. So we lose control of the ads, but we just make sure we kill Razuvious and we get it done. So yeah, this is one of the first raids. Now talking about other groups, after we did GDKP daily, we did GDKP light. So light, the whole idea is that we just did a couple bosses and we eventually turned that into a full second run. So that second run was really fun with having a whole bunch of ults in it, and enjoyed the level of progression that we had in that raid group where it was pretty quick. as far as didn't need to go over a whole ton of the basics. Everyone just kind of knew it because like half of them were or more were from the other raid, or it was a whole bunch of people from that same infrastructure like I talked about where the GDKP community, it was just like you could pull in people from the other raids because everyone had similar strats. Seems like we lost some quality here. Let me see if I can. Okay, so on this one, we end up killing Patchwerk. So we just come back stronger each time with better strats. Made sure that we had Diva Aura and Imp buff and everything possible that we could, I think. Just more Mitt each time. And again, this raid was growing a lot each week. We were doing full raid content and doing a pretty good job of funneling things into the people who needed it. So while it was a soft reserve, we reserved the tier 3 loot and the tier 2.5. So that allowed us really quickly to go from a raid that didn't have tier 2.5 to a raid that did. Oh, that was a disaster. So we did lose someone on the opener. A rogue hit too early, so that was really scary. But we pull it together, and one or two issues aren't the end of the world, and we pull it off. So just two tank in this. I feel like Brand's getting healed a lot and maybe some other people, but maybe it's just um, BT being used. But we kill it. So pretty hyped about that. Um, Once you can kill Patchwerk consistently, you're able to just unlock a lot more content, right? You're able to get more splinters, have more people reserve different stuff, so it's not like 15 people all on Kiss of the Spider. There's just more things to get. So really, really helps out the raid if you're able to get Patchwerk down. Didn't really talk about these slimes too much as far as you just want to walk straight through them. You don't want to strafe. The issue is when people are strafing back and forth, the game picks it up differently. So again, another thing I didn't talk about in A-Bomb Wing. Dang, there's so much to talk about in Naxx. Some people like bubble and you do the pally bubble strat where they purposely hit them. I don't like that. I don't think it's that good. You just get through. I maybe on hardcore, but even on hardcore, man, like I don't know. I've seen that go wrong where people hit the slimes while someone else is really close to them, and the proximity ends up hitting them as well. That can be an issue with pets also. Anyways, yeah, we were able to clear this wing. If you're able to kill Patchwerk, you should be able to kill all these other bosses. So once we're unlocked, we were truly unlocked. Back in the day when we were first practicing this, it definitely got scary. Um, Definitely took some practice to get good at the different mechanics, right? Like, if you expect everyone to be perfect at this kind of stuff the first couple times, you're gonna have a bad time. Um, Everyone needs some practice. I still need to practice some of these really basic things, and that's the power of video games, right? And that's what makes this content so good. Is people are always joke about how easy it is, and yeah, it is super easy, but consistently doing it right over a longer period of time is kind of challenging. So yeah, on these packs we definitely were still struggling sometimes, but we're now consistently getting Patchwerk done after a couple weeks of content. But that's really about it, right? We're doing this wing, and we're not attempting Loatheb ever. We do Razuvious, and we're going to start doing Gothik soon, but still not yet. We're still just doing Razuvious. So we're just going to watch this Razuvious again. Hegrid sets it up with a mind control. Doesn't go at the target, waits for the taunt, pulls it back. Gandalf then does the second mind control kind of early. I would recommend waiting a couple seconds longer, but at the same time, if you're a world buffed raid and you want to kind of send it and have a little bit more overlap, then that's totally fine. And in a raid like this where um, we're unbuffed and we can just have the ads hit the boss for a long period of time, we're less worried about the taunts also. We just need to make sure that the ads um, continue to hold the threat and just hit the target. That's really it. And yeah, that's really it. Slower kill, but again, on Razuvious, it's not a huge DPS race. It's just about control. And control was pretty easy for this group, so easy peasy. So again, you're going to see we're just consistently getting through this. We don't have super optimal comps. In this one, we have 5 rogues. And I made it very clear over the course of this raid how I actually 6 rogues. Ugh. I think that is definitely not optimal. Um, you want to have more warriors. The more warriors, the better. But again, the reality is, especially for a comp like this where you're not worried about having a super easy Loatheb or a super easy Saffron or KT, totally fine to bring more rogues and more mages, more hunters, more druids. Don't need to have a super optimal comp for clearing without the full intention of Naxx. I think sometimes it's good to have that just foresight of saying, guys, we don't have it. Let me be real with you guys. So, yeah, we didn't require frost resist for this stuff. We're just practicing getting through the content. And after doing A-Bomb Wing, then we just do the other easy bosses. So back into the Spider, back into the Plague, back into the Razuvious. And now after Razuvious, I believe this is when we start going. Nope, still not doing Gothic. So yeah, still just not bothering. So 4 weeks in a row, have just tried to do the same thing every single time. Oh, so this goes bad. We pulled 2 gargoyles to start. We got 2 spits. And then there's going to be an ad coming up. We got 4 spits. 5. We kill X in time. So we have 5 here. We should stop. If you have 5, you shouldn't go into the next if you get 5 off of one of them. So then we pull 2 more. One guy runs forward. We still have the stacks. So it wasn't the patrol. I guess we took care of the patrol prior. Yeah, the patrol's right here. I didn't see it. So we definitely took care of the patrol. We just had 9 stacks, 10 stacks. Can't get through that. So unfortunately this mob healed. We were almost able to kill it, but weren't. So unfortunate. But that's why we do this stuff booned, right? Early on, what we were often doing is just clearing some of the trash before A-Bomb Wing. The idea is kill a bunch of the easy trash and then go A-Bomb Wing, then unboon. And that's the exact reason that we do that strat. Um, Removes a little bit of the numbskullness when you take those buffs away from the griefers. Oh, looks like we had a rough time though. So confirmed, I think we wipe on Patchwerk here. I think this is the one where I didn't have Stone Shield. I just get absolutely wall ups. I'm like, oh, why'd I get owned so much? I just don't think I had Stone Shield based on how it looks. So yeah, again, optimization, always making sure that we have imp buff is really important. I just get absolutely owned here. So half health again, boom, dead. Super quick. And that's it. It falls apart super, super fast. When you do the 2 tank strat like that, it's you got it or you don't. So this week we did not have it. We were able to go ahead and clear all of the next light again. So same thing, we just missed out on A-bomb wing this week. We go in the next week. Go back to A-bomb. We kill Patchwerk. Do the transition correctly. Again, let's just show the opener. I think it's always really important so people just understand. We just have the tanks stacked together. The main tank pulls while it's distracted. And the tanks are stacked together. That's simple. I didn't really show it, did I? So yeah, we stack up. Easy peasy. That's all it is. Just make sure you get hit at the same time. Make sure that the tank that's supposed to be top always stays top threat and the other tank doesn't overtake. So yeah, that's really it. Um, Grob is definitely dangerous. Like I said earlier in raids, if you were trying to deal with a lot of these poison clouds, people just struggle and stand in bad spots, and it gets rough really fast. So just know that. It gets rough fast. So next week, we think we do kill Patchwerk again. Again, see the setup. We stay stacked. Easy peasy. Get hit at the same time. Off tank is like using a battle shout there, so they're on the threat meter. And that's all it is. Easy peasy. So just a nice normal raid for us where we do the basic stuff, and now we are also going for Gothik. So we kill Gothik, it wasn't super clean, but this was our first attempt at Gothik. I guess we could talk about a little bit more how we had some deaths on our first attempt. So Loatheb was just too far here. Dude was just out of place. Out by himself, you just can't do that. Need to stay farther back. So the reason that we pulled this off is people were pretty controlled on their piles, while the healers were able to stay far away and never get hit. If you notice here, these guys are really controlled in comparison to where all the piles are. There's just never any damage going out on our healers. So just a nice easy kill. At this point though, it does get a little out of control, and notice how all of a sudden, since all the healers are stacked right here, if they get hit, they are suddenly all taking damage. So we probably could spread out and have more spreading from these healers here, but overall I think it's a pretty good example of how it's supposed to go. So over on dead side, feels pretty safe over there. Pog does die for his DMF right here, so rip Pog. And I think he was in his tanky gear too. He just got kind of owned. Had salve on. Had his tier 2.5 it looked like, but yeah. Pog had a little bit of a history of blasting until no longer blasting. Oh, then Mick dies here too, so yeah, it does fall apart a little bit for a second. This stuff just hits super hard. Stone Shield is often really advisable for the last 2 minutes of the fight. Okay, so we have a little bit of trouble on Gothik, so we call the raid. We're never really doing over a 2-hour raid. That's like the dream is my goal to not be raiding over 2 hours. At the start, we would be starting like 20 minutes late sometimes. Um, have a 3-hour max raid session, I think it was, 3.5 maybe, if we wanted to extend. But like 3 hours, I think, is just like a good cutoff where people just start mentally checking out. Like, if you are raiding for that long of a period of time, do you really think that you're raiding at your best? Like, let's be real. So some people, they're just gonna mash their faces against Naxx over and over and over and over. And I'm a real believer of just like understand the resources that you're using and why, and just be real with yourselves of what's the best use of those resources. So we're starting to attempt Loatheb. I forgot to mention that. Maybe we didn't. Let's see. Did we do Loatheb in this? So we're doing the dance. Let's see how the dance goes this time. So we got a lot better at it over time. We don't get baited anymore. That's the big thing. When it's time to do the dance, you don't go to number 3. Instead of going to number 3, you instantly run to number 1. So we're all at number 1. We all dance and go to number 2. I think one person got stuck in the tunnel there, maybe. But much better movement. Definitely got practice in. So the key is just each time you juggle in between, you don't try and just run straight forward. Just stop in between, let your character register, and move forward. Much better movement from this raid here. And it kind of helps if you're a little bit closer, you have less distance to move. You don't want to be right near him, but you can be kind of close. So now we go to 3. At 3 here, tank has a shield on because I'm not worried about my threat. All the healers are healing the tank. I'm getting owned at the start. We're cleansing people now, and we're in position 1, and we're not worried about getting mana burned because we're at a proper distance. So much better progression of this boss. Okay, we do go to Loatheb. So we can talk a little bit about a Loatheb in this progression group. We ask people to pre-pop a Shadow Pot and use a Healthstone during the fight, potential other Shadow Pot during the fight. This is where we take our buffs out and go ham as much as possible. Definitely is a DPS race, as well as a big healer check. So we do pull it off. I'm just skipping forward a bit here. So we take a long break before this boss. There's no huge rush to start Loatheb. Starting with 0 rage isn't the end of the world. The tank just has to get a good opener. So let's just talk about that. Look at the opener here that I get. Pure peacefulness is the way to think about Loatheb. You want to all be in the room. Yep, people get in the room, good. This door closes. I run in. I have a shield on. I shouldn't have a shield on the opener. I should definitely have more threat, but I use a holy water and use DPS cooldowns. I don't think I'm using a flash set at this point, so it gets kind of scary in the opener. We have 2 or 3 people heal on the opener, but we have plenty of heals on this fight, and it just feels pretty safe overall. The big danger is for those warlocks. They definitely struggle the most. We lost 1 mage early. We're going to start losing other people. We're struggling here. We're holding on for dear life. Barely going to get the kill. I'm still alive. Somehow, like 3 or 4 healers have kept this going. Where we have like no damage, but we have just a couple people that are pumping damage, and I'm getting just enough heals to survive. I got absolutely giga healed right there, while a bunch of healers are all doing damage. This is the definition of a Loatheb progression kill that's happening right here. Somehow I'm still alive. Somehow I get 1 or 2 more big heals. Like these last couple healers that have kept alive and used their defensives properly is the only reason that died. That's like the craziest Loatheb that I've ever seen. So yeah, one of my favorite moments in our progression. There's definitely some moments that I've been missing as I've just been kind of going through this. Glad that we just kind of stumbled across this because I knew it was early on there somewhere. That was so sick. That like looking back on that, how we pulled that, I don't understand how we were able to do it. And the key there is look how much we used our buffs going into that. We did that full A-bomb wing, and then after A-bomb wing, we kept going. I think we had some. Where did Waumbek die? I don't actually know. Doesn't matter too much. Oh, that's right. Maybe Gluth. Um, what matters is that once we got these practice reps for 4 or 5 weeks, we were able to basically always keep our buffs rolling. And we didn't have full buffs at that point at Loatheb, but the more that we were able to keep our buffs rolling and stay alive, we were able to just keep the raid going. And the more that you're able just to raid Naxx and roll with those buffs, the more that you're going to be able to clear. And every time that you got to run out and rebuff and come back in, it wastes a lot of time. So if you're able to kill just as many buffs as, or as many bosses as you can with the buffs that you have, that's how you're going to end up getting a good, consistent Naxx raid. Okay, so I haven't talked about like 5 of the other raid groups that I've been involved in. As far as it goes on the white main side of things, before Era happened, it was really just those 2 main raid groups. There was a couple other that I would like talk to and help, but I wouldn't say I was like I designed it. Um, we got to have a whole discussion about Phase 7 and pasta sauce and all that sort of good stuff. But yeah, Phase 7, pasta sauce, GDKP, Fresh Daily, and then there's been some others that I've been consulting with as well. I would say on Era, as far as just like any question they have, just know I'm involved. Um, or happy to answer, I should say. If you don't want me to be involved, just tell me to piss off. I'm not trying to be this weird orbiter. But at this point, Naxx is pretty figured out, and there's often just like some basic things that you're doing wrong. So what you're seeing here is us wiping on 4 horsemen. So this is the last week before we one-shot Saf and KT, I think. Is that correct? Yeah. No, we wipe on KT here. That's right, it was the week after. So I say this week, but we did wipe and then we didn't actually technically clear this week. So that'll have to be for another time, our first Saf and KT kill. What went wrong? Why couldn't we kill KT on our first attempt like this? First of all, we were missing a lot of buffs. And just to be clear, I can't say that I was fully in charge of pasta sauce in any way. I was just often tanking in that raid. I give a lot of credit to Deez and Nez for all that they've done for pasta sauce. I think that's another really good example of like a long-term raid environment that has just stuck around because they're gamers and they like to play the game together. So that's another just really positive story. So again, can't take all the credit by any means for that raid group. Um, there's so many good stories about Naxx and different raids that have cleared it. It's just fun. So I hope that other people have fun with it. Let's just see here. So first of all, we had a couple people that had to go. This was really late for us. So by now, people are kind of checked out. Resources are running thin. We die. Oh, we die super fast. We don't even make it to the next part. So this is before the Waumbek tech. Here we got hit by a weaver. I'm not sure who actually ended up being the person to pull the weaver, but I mean, that's just a wipe. So yeah, we didn't even get to KT. I forgot about that. KT's tough. Not easy. Fortunately, we were able to kill it the next week, but yeah, kind of a good lesson. Like there was all sorts of stages of progression. I didn't really even want to show the 4 horsemen wipe because these wipes are kind of embarrassing for me. But that's the reality in progression is that there's going to be downfalls a lot of the time. You've seen it in the course of all the years of WoW rating, right? Like it's supposed to be easy, but it's not always easy. So we wiped on this 4 horsemen. We didn't have enough damage to easily burn Thane. When we were running out of Thane, a lot of people died. Some people were able to survive and use shadow pots and stuff, but some people all died. So that was the first problem. We didn't have a full amount of DPS. Right here you see that Ziliak runs and some people get extra stacks because right when Ziliak runs into the casters, the mark happens. So a whole ton of extra people get hit by a mark here. It just continues to get funky. Doesn't look like people are positioned super properly. Some beams are happening. And we're just losing more and more people. So Mograine is going to end up killing all the tanks. Everyone that's on Mograine just isn't able to handle it. Mograine's a problem, and we just fall apart. So we just don't have the damage to chip through Mograine. It takes a couple attempts, and eventually Mograine just destroys us. We also have problems over Ablamo of people dying to the void zones. So basically at every corner, it there's problems. But pretty easy things to fix, right? We ended up killing it the week after this. And that's just because we had enough damage for Thane, we had more world buffs, more firepower. We understood how to heal the tanks on Mograine and had less healer deaths due to rotation problems, less people dying on Blamo. It's just the basic stuff, right? So, um, I love this comment here. This was prophetic as far as Phalaris is saying here 2 weeks until attempting Saf. They were not wrong, and I think that's really cool. We took it slow in this raid group. Um, would love to talk, like I said, about some of the other raid groups, so some more clips of that. But for now, I think this is a good enough rant just to talk about like it's not going to be easy for some people, but just stick with it. And Naxx is something that you can progress through in a positive manner. Just be realistic with it. Don't set too high of expectations. Start with the basics. Do the stuff right that you need to do right, and then from there you can move forward.